The wind howled through the broken window frame, rattling the loose glass like a warning. Inside the small two-bedroom house, dimly lit by a flickering ceiling bulb, Jack Callahan sat on the edge of his son's creaky twin bed, whispering softly. "Night, buddy. Dream about dinosaurs again, huh?" he said with a tired smile, brushing a strand of dark hair from his boy's forehead. Eli, barely 6, nodded with his eyes already closed, murmuring, "The blue one, like the movie." Jack chuckled quietly, kissed him on the temple, and stood. He didn't bother going to his own bed. His back still ached from 10-hour shifts loading shelves at the warehouse. Instead, he grabbed his mug from the chipped kitchen counter, poured the last bit of lukewarm coffee, and leaned against the wall, eyes scanning the rain streaking the windows. That's when he heard the knock. 3 knocks. Urgent. Panicked. He hesitated. Out here on the edge of town, visitors at midnight weren't common. Jack stepped slowly toward the door, cautious but curious, his hand hovering near the baseball bat tucked behind the shoe rack. When he opened it, the rain had soaked the porch, and standing there, barefoot, drenched and shivering, was a girl. No older than 22. Soaked flannel shirt, torn jeans, no jacket, no umbrella. A single backpack slung over one shoulder like she'd grabbed it in a rush. "Please," she said breathlessly. I just need a place to wait till morning. I won't steal. I swear. Jack didn't move. Not because he didn't believe her, but because something in her eyes reminded him of someone who hadn't had a safe place in a very long time. She looked like she hadn't been given kindness in months. Jack could have turned her away. God knows, most would have. But he looked back at Eli, then at her again. "You hungry?" The girl blinked. Yeah." He stepped back and opened the door wider. "Then come in. You can stay in the spare room. Bathroom's down the hall. Don't wake the kid." She looked at him like she'd just seen a ghost. "You don't even know my name." Jack gave a faint shrug. "Doesn't matter. Everyone deserves a roof in the rain." She stepped in, cautiously, like she'd never heard that before. By morning, she was gone. The bed was made. The dishes had been washed. Her backpack was missing, and the front door had been locked behind her. But something was left on the kitchen table. A folded piece of paper, torn from one of Eli's coloring books. 2 words, "Thank you," and underneath it a key. Jack stared at the key, then turned over the note. There, scrawled in pen, "This is for later. You'll know when. What kind of girl leaves a key for a man she just met?" He stared at it for a long time, unaware that the decision to let her in would soon unravel the life he thought he understood and unlock a past she never meant for anyone to find. 3 days passed. Jack kept the key. He didn't tell anyone about the girl. Not Eli. Not his shift buddy Dave at the warehouse. Not even Miss Lorna, the elderly woman next door who watched everyone like a hawk. Because honestly, he didn't know how to explain it. He didn't even know why he'd let her in. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. The kind of look he used to see in the mirror after his wife died. That tired, hollow kind of survival that wasn't really living. Jack tucked the key inside an old Altoids tin on the kitchen shelf. It didn't fit anything in his house. Not the back door, not the old shed, not even the ancient mailbox that hadn't locked properly since 2014. But something told him to hold on to it. Then on Friday afternoon, a black SUV rolled up the dirt road in front of his house. That alone was strange. Out here, in the forgotten stretches of Monroe County, people didn't drive anything newer than a 99 Dodge. And this SUV? It was spotless, tinted, silent. Jack stepped outside, wiping his hands on a towel. The SUV didn't leave. The passenger door opened, and a man in a suit stepped out. Crisp, gray, shoes that looked like they cost more than Jack's rent. "Mr. Jack Callahan." Jack nodded slowly. "Yeah." The man glanced at a small notebook in his hand. "My name is James. I work for Ms. Delaney Hayes." Jack's heart skipped. The name didn't mean anything to him, but it did sound heavy, important. "I believe," James continued, "that she stayed in your home briefly 2 nights ago." Jack stiffened. She didn't do anything wrong. She was just cold and wet, and James raised a calm hand. "We're not here to press charges, sir. In fact, she instructed us to find you, to give you something." Jack's brow furrowed. "She left a key." James nodded. "Then you're already halfway there." The man reached into the SUV and pulled out a small black lockbox. "This," he said, "matches the key." Jack stared at it. "What is this? Why would she leave?" "I'm not authorized to say, sir," James interrupted gently, "but I was told to deliver it personally, and to tell you, when the time is right, open it." Jack didn't like riddles. He liked straight answers. But something about James, the calm, deliberate manner, the unblinking gaze, told him there were no straight answers here. So Jack took the box, watched the SUV disappear back down the road, and stared at it sitting there on his counter all night. He didn't open it. Not yet, because a part of him knew, once he opened that box, his entire life would start changing in ways he could never imagine. The next morning, Jack got a call. "Mr. Callahan," a woman said on the line. "This is the principal at Pine Grove Elementary. We need you to come down immediately. There's been an incident with Eli." Jack's stomach dropped. He threw on his jacket and ran for the truck. And as he backed out of the driveway, the lockbox still sat on the kitchen counter, silent, waiting, but not for long. The school's office smelled like crayons and anxiety. Jack sat rigid in the chair across from Principal Becker, a no-nonsense woman in her early 50s who wore stress like perfume. Eli sat next to him, quiet, eyes down, his little fists clenched in his lap. "I'm going to be very direct," she began, folding her hands. "Your son hit another child." Jack's eyebrows lifted. "Eli doesn't hit anyone. He wouldn't." "He did today," she cut in. "We've reviewed the security footage. He struck a classmate hard enough to give the other child a nosebleed." Jack turned to his son, confused. "Eli, what the hell happened?" Eli didn't answer at first. He just stared at his shoes. Then, softly, barely above a whisper, he said, "He called the lady bad names." Jack blinked. "What lady?" "The girl who stayed with us," Eli said. "He said she was trash. He heard you talking. He said only bad girls run away and sleep in strangers' houses. He said you'd get arrested for keeping her." Becker looked uncomfortable, like she'd just stepped into something personal. Jack rubbed his face, shame creeping up the back of his neck. Not at his son, but at himself for forgetting how much Eli heard, how much he absorbed, even when Jack didn't think he was listening. "Mr. Callahan," Becker said more gently now, "I'm not here to punish him severely. I need to understand what happened at your home. Is there something we should know?" Jack met her eyes. There was a girl. Cold, scared, soaking wet. "I let her sleep in the spare room. She left before sunrise. Didn't take a thing. And this child knew her name." Jack shook his head. "No, neither do I." Becker exhaled. "I won't suspend Eli, but I suggest he sees the counselor. Maybe both of you should." Jack nodded and walked his son out in silence, hand on the small of his back. As they got into the truck, Eli spoke. "She wasn't trash," he said firmly. "She washed the dishes. She smiled at me. She made the tea." Jack looked at him. "I know," he said quietly. "She was kind. Back home." Jack didn't hesitate anymore. He took the key, clicked open the lockbox. Inside was no money, no papers, just a plain brown leather notebook and a cheap flip phone, powered off. Jack opened the first page of the notebook. Written in neat cursive were 5 words. "If I disappear, read everything." He turned the next page, then the next, and by page 10, he realized this wasn't just a notebook. It was a confession. Names, places, a network, mentions of people he didn't recognize, but that sounded high up, politicians, executives, faces he'd seen on national news. There were pages that talked about being trailed, about disappearing into shelters, switching names, stashing cash and draw points. And then this. "I only have 1 copy. If anything happens to me, I want it in the hands of someone good. Someone real. Someone who'd never sell it for a buck. I think I found that man. He has a boy. He lives small but honest. He opened his door for nothing in return. His name is Jack Callahan." Jack's throat went dry, and as he flipped to the final page, the pen ink was smeared like tears had fallen on it. "If you're reading this, Jack, I'm sorry, and thank you." That night, he stared at the burner phone for an hour. Then, without knowing why, he turned it on. It buzzed once. Then again, a message popped up. "Don't trust anyone. They're watching. If they knock, run." Jack locked all the doors. He tucked the notebook under the floorboards of Eli's old toy chest and buried the phone beneath a pile of rags in the laundry basket. Something had shifted inside him, a tension like a string pulled tight inside his chest. For the first time in years, he wasn't just trying to survive. He was protecting something. Someone. It was 2:12 a.m. when the knock came. Not rushed like the girls had been. This one was slow, deliberate. Jack stayed in the hallway, motionless. The porch light was off. He peeked through the side curtain. A man stood there, bald, stocky, a trench coat too stiff for this kind of town. The man didn't call out. He didn't shift his weight. He just waited. Jack's hand clenched around the baseball bat. He didn't move. He didn't speak. And after 2 solid minutes, the man turned, got back into a black sedan, and drove off. Jack didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Jack called in sick for the first time in 4 years. He pulled Eli out of school, packed 2 bags, and drove to the edge of the county. Lorna, the neighbor, had a sister upstate with a spare cabin. No Wi-Fi, no cameras, just a wood stove and silence. It was there, sitting by candlelight while Eli colored in a corner, that Jack opened the notebook again. This time, he read all of it, and now he understood. The girl's real name was Sophie Delaney Hayes. She was the estranged daughter of Gregory Hayes, CEO of Hayes Strategic Holdings, a company knee-deep in government contracts and overseas operations. She hadn't just run away from home. She'd run away from a billion-dollar lie. She had proof in that notebook, proof of shell companies smuggling illegal surveillance tech and blackmail. She'd found it hidden in her father's office after being told to keep quiet about her missing cousin. And then, they tried to erase her. They wiped her bank accounts, blacklisted her, and when she ran, they followed. She'd been on the run for 9 months before she knocked on Jack's door. It all made sense now. The notebook, the burner phone, the box with the key, and the message, don't trust anyone. Jack wasn't just a good guy who let a stranger sleep in the spare room anymore. Now, he was the last person in possession of a notebook that could bring down one of the country's most powerful men. And Sophie trusted him with it. The problem? If she trusted Jack, she likely didn't have anyone else. And if she hadn't contacted him yet, that meant one of 2 things. She was hiding, or she was already gone. Jack didn't have money, or power, or a team behind him, but he had a son, and he had a gut-deep need to do what was right, especially when someone had looked at him just once and said thank you like they meant it. So he made a choice, not to run, not to give the notebook to the police or the press or some faceless agency that might already be compromised. No, Jack Callahan, the broke single dad from nowhere, was going to find Sophie Hayes, and he was going to finish what she started. Jack couldn't afford to be careless. He knew the people behind Sophie's disappearance had reach, and if the contents of the notebook were real, and every instinct screamed they were, he was now carrying a death sentence inside a Ziploc bag under the floorboard of a cabin nobody even knew existed. But Sophie had left breadcrumbs, encrypted names, drop locations, and one detail that wouldn't let him go. If anything happens, meet me where Mom used to read to me. The big sycamore. Always the sycamore. Jack had no clue where that was, but someone might. He drove back into town 2 days later. Not to his home. He wasn't that stupid. He went to the county library instead, wearing a hat low and sunglasses that looked ridiculous indoors. He pulled public records, looked up Gregory Hayes, looked up marriage announcements, and after an hour, he found it. Vivian Hayes, deceased, former elementary school teacher, buried at Graceland Cemetery. Next stop, the graveyard. And there it was on the east side, tall, crooked, majestic, a massive sycamore leaning over her headstone. Jack waited near it for 3 hours. But no one came. No Sophie. Just the wind through the leaves and a folded envelope wedged between 2 roots. He almost missed it. It had his name on it. Jack, I don't know if you'll come. If you're reading this, it means I made a mistake, and you're in danger now, too. I'm sorry. I didn't want to pull anyone else into this. But I believe in you. I saw it that night when you gave me tea and a blanket without asking a single question. If they get this notebook, people will die. Real people. If you have it, protect it. If you can, leak it to the right eyes. But if they find you before then, hide it where no one will ever look. You were the only real thing in my life that wasn't a transaction. Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist. Sophie. That night, Jack made the second hardest decision of his life. He mailed copies of the notebook pages, anonymously, to 3 independent investigative journalists. He didn't trust the police or federal agents, but there were still a few reporters out there who chased truth, not headlines. He burned the original, and then he disappeared. Not permanently, not entirely, just enough. He took Eli, moved north, changed their last names, took a job at a car lot, then a landscaping firm. Small, unremarkable work that kept him safe. For a while, it felt like running. But one day, almost a year later, as he was watching Eli climb an old oak in their backyard, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was a headline. Exclusive. Hayes' empire collapsing under whistleblower files. Corruption, abuse, money laundering uncovered. Jack read the entire article, and then he saw the name. Sophie Hayes. Alive. Safe. Listed as the protected source. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at his P.O. box. No return address. Inside was a photo of Sophie, older, stronger, her hair longer now, standing in front of a cabin with a slight, tired smile. Written on the back, "The world looked the other way. You didn't. Thank you, Jack. S." And Jack, poor, kind, stubborn Jack, sat in his truck in that empty parking lot and cried for the first time in years. Because maybe he hadn't changed the world, but he'd saved one, and that was enough.